Welcome to another episode of Inside Line. This time around, we're going to talk to renowned bike journalist from 44 Teeth, Mr. Alistair Fagan. And we're going to talk to him about the trials and tribulations of endurance racing on, wait for it, a GSX-R125. Alistair, whose idea was that? You could race a multitude of things, as you have done. You've been in BSB, you've been in the TT. What made you think that this was a good idea?
Well, Suzuki approached us originally, I think it was 2020, and said, do you fancy racing a GSX-R125? Of course, we're on the launch, we're at Silverstone on the launch, and I mean, it was carnage. It was brilliant. It was organised mayhem. And you know yourself, smaller bikes, ring in the neck.
Way more fun.
Way more fun. And sure enough, we rocked up to the first round at, I think it was Teesside, and we were with Bruce, your mate from Fast Bikes, and we had this joint venture. And I can't remember exactly where we finished. I should find out, but we finished fairly high up. And then it was like, oh, should we do it again? So then,
I mean, what were those early sort of laps like on it? I mean, fun?
Oh, just hilarious fun, yeah.
Because on paper, it sounds as though it'd be a bit tedious after a few laps. But I've seen video footage, and it's a pretty competitive style of racing, isn't it?
Exactly, and I mean, the original bike was standard. It had road fairings, everything on, the horn, everything else. It was absolutely standard. So the next race, it was like, well, let's put an exhaust on it. Let's do gearing changes, and I think we finished third.
So hang on a minute, did you start feeling sort of the will to succeed and win?
Oh, absolutely.
From the early days?
Yeah,
so you're not in it just to mess about and get drunk afterwards?
No, I mean, even at my age and weight and everything else, you don't go racing to finish 20th, do you? I mean, some of us do.
Some of us don't have any choice in the matter.
But especially when you get a little smidgen of, oh, we could do this, or we can win. And yeah, I think we finished third. I don't remember yesterday, so yeah, I think it was third.
I mean, moving on straight away to sort of establish your credibility in the class, you did win the championship, didn't you?
We did. Yeah. With the help of a few ringers along the way, we had Tim Neve at the final round at Mallory. But yeah, we were outright winners. So yeah, I mean, it was, and it got to that point. I mean, I don't know how, maybe we were skipping a few chapters here, but, it went from 30 bikes on the grid in that first round, and then later on at Mallory Park, I think there was 120 bikes.
Do they all qualify? Do they all start or not?
I think yes, I think it was 120, yeah.
Right, is this for a sort of 3-hour race or longer still?
I think it was 6 hours.
6, right.
Yeah.
Tell me the story. What's the shortest, what's the longest sort of race?
Shortest is 4 hours, and the longest is 24.
So still a fairly big deal.
Yeah.
All right, let's choose the 24-hour one, really, because that's the sort of ultimate. I've watched some footage on that, and it is a bit close. It's a contact sport, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say contact.
Well, I saw that. I mean, you're bashing into each other.
Yeah. I think because the bikes are smaller and less powerful and lighter, you can get away with a lot more. Everything is exaggerated, and every single gap, even if there isn't a gap, you make it.
I did notice this, yeah.
So
even if there isn't a gap, as you say, if you've got the ambition to go through, you just do it, don't you?
Exactly.
I mean, is it still sort of fun with people bashing into each other as often as they do in the paddock? You don't get any sort of Rossi Biaggi scuffles in the paddock, do you?
There's been no, as far as I've seen, there hasn't been any fisticuffs.
Right.
I don't.
Have you ever had the temptation to fall out with anyone?
No, look, it's not chess, is it? You're bound to have, and I think this is where it gets slightly a bit of a grey area, is the fact that this free tech championship, was designed for lads and dads to build a bike in a shed, or cheap racing essentially, by Hudson Kenner, who I'm sure you know, ex-British champion.
Yep.
And it soon went from a few budget bikes, and all of a sudden there was a grid full of GSX-R125s and BSB riders, and it was a very, very, what's the word? It was an elite championship.
I mean, did anyone or could anyone predict that it would get as big and sort of prestigious as it has done?
No way. Not. So, I mean, I haven't really chatted to Hudson about it, but back in that first race we did, if someone said to me there'd be 120 riders or 120 teams on the grid at Mallory, I would have laughed at them.
Why has it got so successful?
It's a magic formula. You've got cheap bikes.
Yep.
They are cheap bikes still.
What can you use, by the way?
You can use.
What are the rules?
So any 125cc 4-stroke.
Yep.
Any 50cc 2-stroke.
Yep.
And there's varying degrees of classes and sort of state of tune, depending on the class. So you can have the only thing that must remain the same is the bore and stroke.
Right.
So the capacity has to remain the same. Everything else, you could take a stock bike out of the showroom and race it in I can't remember what the exact class is called, but there's also a street stock class, which is what we're entered in, and that is standard engine.
Yep.
You can change suspension, you can change gearing, bodywork, brakes, etc., etc.
All right. I mean, talk to me about this bike. This bike is obviously a production bike to begin with.
Yeah.
What have you changed on it? What's not standard?
So the brakes, let's start front to back. We've got a YSS suspension fork kit in the front, different pads and discs, quick action throttle. As I said, the engine is totally standard. GB Racing covers, obviously. We've got a quick shifter, a YSS shock, different gearing, and that's obviously dependent on the track.
I noticed that the front sprocket looks marginally larger than the output shaft from the gearbox. What is it, 10 tooth or something? It looks utterly tiny.
I think it's 11.
Right.
Yeah, don't quote me on that.
Do you change gearing at every track? Right. So,
because they're quite fussy. It's a 4-stroke and 4-strokes have torque, but you've got to be.
Yeah.
They're quite fussy.
Yeah. Carry on with the bike. Actually, did we get the exhaust? Is that
obviously a full system? Yeah.
Yep,
Which
yep.
when you're dealing, this bike makes, I think it's 13.5 horsepower on a dyno.
How much more than stock is that?
I think it's about 1.5.
Does it? Right. Are things close enough for that to make a significant difference?
Yeah.
Do you whistle by people on the streets because of it? Or do you just creep up a little bit?
You creep, and as you know, slipstream makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
So, I'm not as thin as I was, and I do regret lifestyle choices a lot of the time when I'm being passed and not being able to get in the slipstream. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, the exhaust makes a massive difference.
Oh, okay.
And we started off with this quite fancy, unnamed manufacturer who was very expensive exhaust.
Right.
And it had a real big bore, looked amazing. I think it cost about £500. And then we found out that, in fact, the smaller the bore and the smaller the exit, the more power we got.
Oh.
We made another half a horsepower because we had a baffle in. So it doesn't make sense. It goes against everything that
bizarre.
Or you think you know about racing, but yeah.
All right. The race that I want to concentrate on is the race that I watched a couple of times yesterday and just couldn't stop laughing, despite the fact it does look super serious. It is a contact sport, isn't it? You're fighting for millimetres, aren't you?
Yeah.
Even over 24 hours. Is it just as strenuous as on a bigger bike?
I've never done a 24-hour endurance race on a big bike.
Yep.
But I've done a fair bit of endurance racing on big bikes, on big tracks. And this is just as physical. It's a go-kart track and it's left, right, stop, start. And the force is on your neck and everything else. Like I said, I'm not the fittest bloke in the world, but I'm certainly not unfit or not bike fit. And it's a real task. Those hours in the morning when the sun's coming up and you've had no sleep and you're just wishing time away, which you never do in life, do you? But those, the sunrise crew, and it's not a nice feeling. It really isn't. It's great. Of course, it's great fun.
Take me through the 24 hours. You got 3 riders, haven't you?
No, we had 5.
So how many are you allowed?
You're supposed to have anything between 4 and 8.
8?
Yes.
How often are you changing then? Every tank of fuel?
So no, the stipulations, you have to run every half an hour, but you have a 5-minute allowance. So essentially everyone does 30, 35 minutes.
You can't run beyond that?
No.
Why not?
I think it's a safety thing.
Is it like a tachograph on the truck? Can it only...
No, well, the transponders, people in race control can spot that someone's been out for more than
Is that a safety concern? That
I think there's an element of safety. There's also an element. There's obviously you have some faster riders, and if those faster riders are out for longer than they should be,
yeah, good, yeah.
Then I can see sense.
Quite well thought out, well organised series. It seems so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a victim of its own success, really, because as I said before, I don't think Hudson dreamt it would ever get this big, and no doubt the early videos we did, a lot of 44 Teethers started watching it and they went, we got to do that, and came into it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're the sole reason for it, but there must have been a big reason, because half of the paddock was full within a few months of that race that went up. People buying bikes and going out, and I think there's no way he could have seen it got this big, and to have the same team doing the job they were doing with 30 riders as they were doing with 120 riders, things get a bit hectic, and it's not. There's no ACU license. You don't need a license to race it. It's all it's very.
So hang on a minute. What is the criteria? Just turn up with a motorbike and off you go.
Yeah, but you're vetted now. So if they take you around and with newcomer laps to see if you can actually ride. But I think a lot now is, it's not just it's not newbies coming in and going, I want a piece of that. I think it's people in the BSB paddock or track day riders who've ridden a lot and want to get into racing. A lot of the guys coming into it now are experienced riders, which is no bad thing.
Why do BSB riders think it's a good idea?
Because it's fun. It's brilliant fun.
Right.
It's and a lot of them will mimic what I said. It's the most fun I've had racing a bike in a long time. There's no pressure. There's no BS.
If there were prizes and points, I know that ultimately it is a championship, but say the winner got $2,000, would that spoil it?
No.
That would just make it madder.
It'd make it spicier. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can it get any spicier?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I think that one of the rounds at Mallory last year, there was the most amount of BSB riders there. The BSB season had finished, and it was wild. It was just destruction derby. It really was, and a lot of people got hurt. And I think, that was a bit tasty. And I think,
how did they manage to rein it in after that then?
There was lots of strong words, and I think that a lot of the slower riders were put off by that.
Yeah.
Which in a way, I guess, I don't know, it's not spoilt the championship, but you could say that it's taken away the original idea. But it's just got bigger and bigger because of faster riders coming in, better teams. You've got Mark Halverson-Smith, who used to run BSB team.
Yeah.
He's got his team in the championship with a few of his riders. Most of them are current BSB paddock riders, and obviously Hudson Kenner and Johnny
Ray,
Johnny
Mathis,
Taller, Johnny Towers.
Johnny Towers.
Johnny Towers. There's lots of quick riders. There's a bit more money coming into it, and like I said, I don't think it's taken away anything from the original. Well, it has taken away something from the original idea, but it's just got better because of it.
Now, what about preparation? I mean, we've talked about the bike. Are you at the gym often?
Yeah.
Can I just sort of draw your attention to the fact that during the video footage from Teesside of the 24-hour endurance event, I saw what you had to eat, and I don't think it's the stuff of Olympic athletes, is it? As I remember, there was double cheeseburgers, there was pork ribs, and there was chicken McNuggets between riding spells. Well, surely that doesn't help. Does that underline just how seriously you should and shouldn't take it?
It's a bit of fun at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It is, we all go racing bikes. We all started racing bikes to have fun.
Yeah.
And
does it take you back to those club racing days where it wasn't that serious?
Does. And I guess another reason why the BSB boys come and have fun, because there's no pressure, there's no, like I said, no issues. It's just you go there, you ride your bike, you have a laugh. And with how serious racing is these days at BSB, it can take away the fun. And like I said, look, we were very lucky to be joined by a butcher who's in the team for that particular meeting, and he bought a lovely array of meat. But it just.
I've never heard a racer come out with that. We were lucky enough to have a butcher on the team. I'll listen for that in MotoGP.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I'll ask that question next time I interview a top level rider.
But no, it's you know, it's just there's a van, there's a barbecue, there's a generator going, and you know, we haven't got a hospitality suite, we've got none of that rubbish. So, and when there's a guy who just came over and said, "Look, hi guys, do you want anything from McDonald's at 2:00 in the morning?" You go, "Oh, yeah, okay." So
I'd like to give his pub a plug. Can you remember
I
it?
can't remember the name of it. Yeah.
I mean, while you're on though, I would like to give the video footage that I have watched twice now. Just Google 44 Teeth, Free Tech Endurance, Teesside 24-hour event. Sit back and laugh for 32 minutes. It's way better than watching anything serious like MotoGP or BSB. Not that they're not worth watching, of course, but for pure entertainment, hard to beat.
I agree.
Honestly,
Yeah.
just fantastic footage. I need to watch more of them. Mind you, I'm glad I was on my sofa rather than on the seat of this thing, because it does look a bit scary. Does anyone take it seriously? Does anyone retire back to their van, motorhome or whatever and not talk to other riders? Or is it properly laid back and good fun? All right.
The camaraderie is amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone gets on with each other. It's good crack. I mean, there's a few riders that everyone knows take things a little bit seriously, and you know, and there's no doubt that cheating goes on in all walks of the sport, and it definitely happens in the Free Tech series. But you know,
I mean, given how
you're cheating yourself.
Yeah. Given how close it is, do you ever see bikes whistling by because they're obviously like 550 cc's overboard? Or
I think there's definitely some funny
interpretation
cams or pistons in there somewhere. Yeah.
Talk about the bike. Pretty reliable.
Honestly, we have had. I mean, I think it works out about 1,400 miles in the 24-hour.
Indeed, all right.
You know, didn't miss a beat except from a crash previously. We fit a new throttle cable, and the throttle cable frayed at the end, and and that wasn't even the standard part. That was a universal one. But no, it hasn't missed a beat at all. Even when it's been crashed and catapulted down the road enough times.
Now, crashing is par for the course, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was 5 times you guys were off. In fact, there was an argument as to whether it was 5 or 6.
5 or 6, I couldn't really remember.
Is that, nobody's sort of getting upset about that? Is that typical?
Exactly. I
mean, it's only once every 6 hours or so, isn't it? In fact, 5 hours, I think.
If you moan about someone crashing during racing, then you're in the wrong sport.
Yeah.
No one likes I don't want to name any names. No one likes a repetitive crasher. But, you know, if you're trying, then there's nothing wrong with it, you know.
Okay. You're running for 24 hours. Do you change tyres?
Some people do. I mean, the Bridgestones we ran lasted 24 hours. So.
And what are they? Are they like...
VO2 slicks, yeah.
Slicks, right, okay. Did you try treadeds to begin with and sort of find they weren't up to it? Or?
We went straight to slicks, I believe, the first time we tried it. You know, there's some teams ran different tyres and had no issues. Some teams had delaminating and had to change tyres, or had to change tyres because they were just squared off. But no, I mean, we managed to do a whole 24 hours without swapping wheels.
How long does the fuel last?
We did every 3.5 hours. But again, I've got to mention we've got a power commander on that.
Yep.
So
is it much more economical because of it? Oh, no. Right, okay.
I mean, the first race we did at Teesside, I think it was a 6-hour race, on the stock bike, we had to do a splash and dash right at the end. So we nearly did 6 hours on one tank of fuel, which is 10. I think it's about 10 litres.
How well do you know what the consumption's like? Has it got a gauge on it?
It's got a gauge on it, but you just have to work out in practice.
Yeah. Have you ever run out?
Don't know.
Not that you recall?
Paul, no.
Okay.
No.
I mean, it's obviously a team of quite a few people. Does it run quite slickly? You know, has everybody got a part to play? And
well, I mean, James from JHS is kind of the pseudo team manager in that, you know, he helped us with building the bike and had been a Suzuki specialist. He's he knows most things. But no, everyone, the riders sort of get chipped in, get mucked in, and if we have to change wheels, then we'll nominate someone to hold a tyre, because we have got quick release wheels in this, so we can do a wheel change in around about 30-40 seconds.
I mean, do you do that to accommodate changes in the weather?
Yes.
Ever? Right.
Yeah,
Okay. And how
yeah.
often have you gone to wets and slicks again?
The first 24-hour race, we did 5 tyre wheel changes,
Bloody hell! What from?
front and back.
Yeah, but from
Yeah.
one to another and back again.
Yes.
Yeah, just to suit the.
So the
conditions?
amount of time you save, we save minutes.
Yeah,
Minutes.
yeah,
By having
yeah.
the quick release stuff that James built.
And have you got people sort of organising schedules for stuff, noting the form of lap times and whether it's a good time to change tyres now, or do people just come in when they start squirming about too
No, I
much?
think you obviously if there was 5 riders and a team manager there for the majority of it, then we have to figure out there's got to be always at least a spare rider ready to go.
Have you got people forming strategies based on lap times and opposition's lap times like they do at the ball? Or...
I mean, some teams do.
Yeah.
We haven't tended to because it's you say if you've got a bike like this, you don't tend to get issues.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, if there's a crash, then yes. So if you've got 5 riders, then at least the next rider is ready to go and on the hand to give James a hand. And in previous times, we've had another kind of mechanical helper to come along and help if needed. But really, it just runs itself, really.
Yeah, that's probably another reason why it's not very stressful. You're not having to sort of, consider the bike's going to blow up. Or
exactly.
Changes have to be made. You're not coming in to change the head angle, are you? Or the wheelbase or the weight distribution. I mean, do you literally start it and just keep filling it up?
That's it. That's it.
Unless the weather changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. It's as simple as it gets, isn't it?
It really is, and that doesn't take anything away from the racing. Yeah. I'm a bit of a geek. I like the technology. I like electronics. I like looking at laptops, and I like geometry and all that stuff. It somehow turns me on. But no, this is just as fun.
Right. Presumably, you still get all the same emotions pre-race, and particularly during the latter stages of the race. I'm thinking about, how do you feel at 2 a.m. in the morning, particularly if it's getting a bit chilly or wet?
Yeah, I mean...
2 a.m, there's probably still, 8 hours to go?
10 hours.
10 hours to go. Bloody Nora. Go on.
Well, it's the first year we did it, it was an absolute shambles. We had no kind of system, really. We went, well, okay, you ride for half an hour, then I'll do another back. And it was a bit...
No plan.
No plan. And none of us slept at all. And because it is... In a normal paddock, you don't have the generators. Well, you have the big generators hidden out the way, but when you've got 100 plus generators in a paddock and everyone's coming in and out, you cannot sleep there. So this year we did it slightly differently, and we had a rough plan where you get at least 4 or 5 hours off a bike to go and have some proper kit. And we parked the vans or the sleeping vans out of the paddock. And it worked quite well.
So which hours did you sleep from then?
I slept from 2 until 6:30.
Right. And how well did you sleep?
Not much at all. No.
Right. Was it a bit academic, really?
Yeah.
Did you just go to bed dreaming of GSX-R125?
Exactly.
Laptops?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
What about, and this is something I witnessed watching the video, what about that deep joy when you get to the end of it all and it's all done and you can relax and go to sleep forever if you want?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some elation. And at the same time this year, when we knew we couldn't get first and we weren't going to be able to take him for second, it was like, right, just ride round.
So for how long were you just riding round though? Did that not feel a bit non-eventful?
No, not at all. Because, I mean, 24 hours, I mean, even though you have teammates, you don't really get the break, you don't really have the sleep, and everyone's involved in it, regardless of whether you're sat on the bike or whether you're in the pits. It's just continuously
focusing
immersive.
on that job.
Yeah, so it didn't change the fact, and it was a nice, the fact that you're not head down, bum up for, what is it, a minute and 20 seconds or whatever, every lap for half an hour. It was nice just riding around, just relaxing and waving to the crowd and, putting a few wheelies and, enjoying it.
All right, that was at Teesside. Where else have you raced? I think you mentioned Mallory.
We done Mallory, Knock Hill.
Knock Hill?
Yes. reverse, which was hilarious. Yeah. We've also done a little track called Wilton Mill, another go-kart track.
Yep.
I've raced the bike at Aberdare.
Yep.
I don't know if you're familiar with
I
Aberdare.
am, yeah.
That's a good crack. And the final round of the championship this year is in Andalusia in Spain. So
Right. Are you going?
that's the plan.
I mean, is that quite high on your agenda?
It's quite high. I mean, it's just there's a lot of money involved. So
Yeah,
we have to manage expectations with budgets. So
Where are you sitting now in the championship?
we've only done this year. I made a conscious effort because my boys are now racing full time, and they deserve the time and effort rather than me going and jumping into a championship full time. Because it's not just it's not just racing on the Saturday or racing on the Sunday. It's the travel on the Thursday and the Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and sometimes Monday. Because the worst bit is the T-side is 24 hours, driving back afterwards.
Yeah, well.
You have to stop at every service station, have a little kit, do another half an hour, and it's carnage. But no, I think this year it was a conscious effort. We didn't do the whole championship, and we do the big events. So yeah, I'd like to go to Spain. Really would.
What about next year? Is it running, and are you going to take? You're going to take part?
Yep. Yeah. Not entirely sure in what capacity yet, but we'll be there.
Is the GSX-R125 the bike to have?
If you look at the championship and the results, it's got to be. I mean, I think after the success we had in 2020, winning the championship, I think halfway through the year there was maybe 2 or 3. By the end of the year there was a dozen, and the next year when Hudson won the championship, the series organizer won the championship in 21. I don't know the exact, but there's got to be 50% of the grid is on the Suzuki. And I think it was the only bike with double overhead cam. It handles one of the best. It revs the best. There's lots of. I think it's the best all rounder. That's the thing. There's not one area you go, oh yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah. But it's definitely the best all rounder. And I think it's locked out the podium in a 24-hour race. I think it was 2 years in a row now. So it's
So first choice.
Yeah.
For Wiseman at least.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back at all the racing you have done, in terms of enjoyment at least, how highly does free tech endurance racing rank?
I think it's right at the top. You don't get the same thrill, but in terms of fun, as I said, there's no BS, there's no politics, there's no there's nothing too serious about it, and that just adds to the fun. So
when you said no ACU license, you sort of got me going a bit. I mean, could I wobble around and have a bit of fun, do you think?
Mossy, if you are up for it next year, come have a go.
Oh, God.
Come have a go.
Do you know when you say things and immediately regret them? I might hold you to that.
Yeah, I think you'll be a dark horse.
Cart horse, maybe. If it's just for fun and you're not going to put me under pressure.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
How physically demanding is it? I'm very old, you know.
Now look at me.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, I'm sure you'll agree that that was a fascinating insight into life on a GSX-R125 over 24 hours on a racetrack. Join us again for the next episode of Inside Line very soon.